Good evening, guys. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, good talking to you as well. Firstly, how are things going for you? Obviously, a bit of a strange period for everybody connected with Carlisle United, with football in general.
Yeah, obviously, you're reading as much as I am at times, in all honesty. It's been a tough time at times, and it's been easier at other times, if you like. So we're sort of going with the information, and obviously being information-led, sometimes it's easier than some days are easier than others, in all honesty.
How much work is being done at the moment? I mean, obviously, one of the key things is to remain afloat and keep you financially stable. But on the football side of things, how much work is going on in that respect?
Well, there's plenty of work been going on, and obviously since day one, since we got told the information about, everybody had to go home and remain home, I've been faced really with lots of challenges. Obviously, the players were going to be out of contract. Recruitment sort of had to be shelved at the time, and we had to try and give as much information as possible with what we were getting told. So, and then since then, obviously, things have progressed slowly. We're information-led, and obviously some of that has been contradictive to what we've sort of felt in terms of where we could be or where we might be. So it's not been easy. There's been lots of challenges.
I guess one of the main questions United fans listening tonight will want me to ask is how soon might we be able to see new additions coming into the squad?
Well, that's another challenge that I'm faced with at the moment, because I think, although I'm really pleased to see the 1st of July, because ultimately players are in their last, a lot of clubs obviously on furlough. It's not really touching them at the moment, and some of the clubs who are, have been able to look after their players as much as they can. But once people go back to training, it may well appear that they'll be coming off furlough. Clubs will have to make decisions on players, so that will get a little bit easier. I tried to be ahead of the game in terms of when we made sure that people knew what they were doing in terms of their positions individually and collectively as a club. We've had to manage every instance in terms of making sure that we're not spending any money that we don't need to spend. But likewise now we're obviously looking at recruitment, and Chris and the staff, we started our recruitment looking at that and what might be and what would be prior to this pandemic. We have been well prepared to that. So now it's just really a case of getting the opportunities to speak to players, and when that opportunity is. We've done lots already. We've got to be mindful of where other clubs are, and we'll do our business very quietly. But no, we're in a pretty good place at the moment in terms of that.
Yeah, it's good to hear. We'll go full circle and go back to your arrival at Carlisle United towards the end of a chat over the course of the next hour. But let's just go right back to the beginning for you, because you're a Walthamstow boy, East London. Just talk us through those early days and when you first started playing football.
Well, there's some memories there. It started, in East London, in West Ham, really, more than anything. Growing up in a football world, if you like, a council estate in East London, and really the only thing you had to do then was play football, and enjoyed it. Grew up in East London, and then out towards further out towards Essex. Started at Watford.
What would you have been earning? Tell the viewer, what would you have been earning at that time, an apprentice?
£27.50.
£27.50.
That's what I had, and the 50p was important, trust me.
It was, yeah. We've heard how people's 50p from Paul Simpson, 50p bonus on a academy game made the difference. Did you move there? Was it, were you in digs, or could you travel?
Yeah, I got brought up, and sadly, my mum and dad left us when we were 8. And so my mum did all the hard work, really, the graft behind the scenes. We lived in a council estate in East London, which is a rough place and still is. So things were hard and very tough to come by. So really, football was everything I knew. Chris, really, in all honesty, I wasn't a very good boy at school. Didn't really go to school very much, and times were quite tough. In all, being truthful, is that it was the only thing we had. So, we were. Yeah, it was an interesting life, early life, if you like. So Graham Taylor was the manager at then, Chris, and he took us over a year early because I found myself in a little bit of trouble, and obviously didn't really know anything other than sort of being a boy on the streets, really. Me and my brother, twins, obviously. And Graham took us over a year early and put us in digs. the M25 wasn't even, I don't think it was actually finished then, so the access to other things, we had to get on the train all the time over to Watford, which wasn't an easy, meant going into London to go out of London. But thankfully, I had Graham Taylor and a really amazing guy called Tom Wally, who was a Welsh, a real hard nut, Chris. He was one of these old-fashioned, but he wouldn't be able to do what he did now because of health and safety. I think my head got knocked off a few times. But no, I listen. I was very fortunate to have them two men in my life, really, because they were like father figures, and they disciplined me, which I needed as a boy. I was a bit of a runaway and sort of unruly, if you like. But what I did like doing was competing on the pitch, and I was very fortunate. And I remember even something like 15, 16 years later, I got a phone call from Graham Taylor, and it was about a time that I'd done something wrong and he didn't know, and he rang me up and said, I bloody found out, so it was good fun. There was a lot of stories there probably won't be able to repeat, but however, I did ring him and thank him for the discipline that he gave me as a player and as a person. I did take a few rollickings, and I had a few, one of them moments when the eyes fill up and the legs start wobbling, and you're getting confronted by a man with a pulse rate of like 200 who's steaming at you. And he was brilliant, Graham Taylor. Bless him, and an unbelievable manager, and he was really like a father figure to me. So it was interesting.
It's funny because every person we've interviewed in the last few months goes back to their apprenticeship days, where for me as well, it was torture some days. It was really tough, and you think, can I get through this? But everyone looks back on it now as some of the best times of their life, and the discipline that you instilled in you, stays with you to this day, which you've just said.
Oh, they do, Chris. I mean, I remember we wasn't allowed back to East London because the Tom would always tell us, you're not going home unless you win. And I turned up late one day and he gave me this rollicking. He said, if you don't win today, son, you're not going home tonight. And, that was everything. We came off the pitch and beat Gillingham 3-0, and he called me a lucky something, we were good. We had a good youth team, Tim Sherwood, David James, Ewan Roberts, my brother, Malcolm Allen, some really good lads. We got to the Youth Cup final in 1984 and we lost to Newcastle. Yeah, Newcastle. Mark Gazza at St James's in midfield, and we drew 0-0 that day. And me and Paul had a real good time, had a good little battle there. It was good. But in the second leg, I reverted back to centre half. We had a few injuries, and they were about a year, 15 months in front of us, really. Yeah. And they beat us well, but they were a good team as well, Newcastle. Some good players, Ian Bogey and people like that. And obviously Gazza was Joe Allen. So, listen, that was a good team I was in, but we had the good ground in. So Tim went on to do really well, Jamesy, and obviously Dino. So, it was a good fun. Yeah,
I've got it written down here, the Gazzas, the Joe Allens, Paul Stevenson, etc. But how did your break happen then with the first team? Was it because of your form in the Youth Cup, which showed the manager?
Yeah, well, we were obviously had the football combination then, Chris, and we were doing well. We were competing with your Tottenhams, who had a really good side in the combination, which was reserve football. I remember going up against a guy called Steve White, and he broke my nose down at Bristol Rovers. That was really the day that I sort of grew up. And I remember John Wald, who you all know, said, I think this is the day you've learned, this is men's football. And in the second half, I think I ended up breaking the other bloke's nose. So it was a 1-for-1, really. But that was really the day. And then I remember Mark Morris, he got injured at Portsmouth away, I think it was. I was then put into the squad. Harry Bassett went and moved on to Sheffield United, and I got my break when there was an injury. I went to Wolves. I marked Andy Gray, who you'd remember, I'm sure, well. Mm-hmm. I was centre forward. I marked him at the Hawthorns, and that was my debut, and we won 1-0. Nigel Gibbs scored a 25-yarder, which I don't think he ever did in his career ever again. But no, that was the break I got, and then I stayed in the team. We went to Leeds at Ellen Road, full house, and won 1-0. Glyn Hodges scored, and we beat Plymouth. So my break was, I was in a good side. I was lucky enough to play next to a guy at the beginning of my career called John McClelland, who obviously you'd have heard of and you know. And Macca was a big, stoutly, Irishman, and he helped me. I was lucky enough to play with some good centre halves, Paul Miller, Steve Terry, Glenn Roeder. So, yeah, that was the early part of my career. And then I became captain of Watford, and that was a role I loved doing. I loved being, the one in the team that was prepared to lead from the front, if you like. I think the club went through the transition when Graham went to Villa. And obviously they brought in Harry, who was completely the different set of tools than Graham was. But no, I played with Kenny, a good player, and obviously he's doing very well with Portsmouth. And wish him well in the playoffs. How
did you find Dave Bassett? We've had a couple on who loved him, a couple who iffy, but I always get the point from him that I think Chris, he's honest.
Yeah, no, Harry's got a lot more, more string to his bow. He knew how to skin a cat, and I got on brilliant with him and his team. With Jeff Taylor, Alan Gillette. He tried to sign me at Sheffield United, but those were the days pre-Bosman, and I remember him ringing me up privately and, come on, son, you've got to come and play for me. And Steve Harrison went bonkers. You're not going there. You're not doing this. And Harry was great, though. He was a good man, good coach, and good person. So, yeah, Watford didn't want me to go. Offered me a new deal, and I ended up staying. And as I say, ironically, I ended up back at Sheffield United because Howard Kendall, the day that our fortunes can change, Chris, is that I was told by Steve Perryman when he was there that, David, this is your last game for Watford. You're going to go to, it was Everton, Leeds and Manchester City at the time. They've all bid 500 grand for you, and you can speak to them all tomorrow. So this was pre-mobile phones. Yeah. So we, 10 minutes into the game, I've gone into a tackle, and 15 minutes into it, I'm in hospital. So that sort of curtailed that move or that opportunity,
the 14 months or so you had out, how did you find it? Were you in one of them old gyms and just the lads go out to training and it's tough mentally?
Yeah, part of it, Chris, was I was 3 months in a plaster. They kept bleeding, and kept having to change the plasters. So I was on my own at home most of the time, which obviously, there weren't no Sky and things like that then. So it was, it was demanding in terms of your mental state, really. Got back in, and I spent sort of 6 months in a gym. I had a limp at the time because my leg wouldn't straighten. Where the stitches were, but the repair job had made it really solid, so we had to break down those adhesions. And then I got sort of back into running slightly, but I still had a limp. Even when I got back to playing, my leg wasn't straight, but you can run with that if it sounds okay. But that was tough, and you carried on doing your sort of rehab for really the next 10 years and making sure that you keep the muscles strong and supporting the knee. So, I was very fortunate to get back. I mean, the data and everything, the opportunities to get back in there is easier because of the science behind it and the way that you can recover. So, for them days, it was very rare that anybody recovered from a cruciate and a lateral ligament, rupture.
Yeah, we've seen, haven't we, back then, that a lot of people had to retire through that. So you get back in the team and then, captain again and work your way towards it. What's the highlights of your time at Watford? Big games or things you can remember?
Well, I think the last game that Eric Cantona and I played was on a Tuesday night away at Vicarage Road, and I scored the first goal. And we beat Leeds, had an incredible team, super players, really, really good. And Jason Drysdale and myself, who'd come through the youth team, we both scored that night, and that was a 2-1 victory at Vicarage Road. My biggest one was my debut, away and then home. Lucky enough to play for England under 21s, but at Watford, I was very loyal. I could have left to go to a number of clubs, but I was happy. I enjoyed my time there and saw a lot of things coming and going. But I stuck with it, and I was loyal to the club, and I wanted to play that amount of games for them. When I was, I could have gone to West Ham, and I turned it down because West Ham, I probably wouldn't have got in. They had Billy Bonds and Alvin Martin at the time, and I probably wouldn't have got my debut. And all those boys that went through that academy at West Ham at the time, under John Lyle, they didn't really ever make it. There was only probably 2 at Tottenham, Vinnie Samways being one, another boy called Warren Gravett. So I think I made the right decision as a young man, and I think that's what playing for Watford was an honour and a pleasure. And I met, the great Elton John was our chairman, and he made things very good fun as well when he used to come and watch the players. We had a great trip to China with him, and sitting at the table with a legend like that man, and playing. He tried to play football with us, and bless him, he couldn't play really, but it was good fun and great trips, things like that. That was all highlights, really.
Yeah, I think what you've just said there about knocking West Ham back would have been tough, but you're right. We had Glenn Murray on, who knew he had to get out to Carlisle to start his career. Myself, I knew I had to get out to Sunderland to play, but you didn't have to get out of Watford, but you've realised that you want to play games more than go to the club and sit on the bench. And I think you wouldn't be the same as me. If you're training all week and you've not got that game at the end of it, then you're probably going to be a bit of a nightmare, aren't you? You need that reward.
Chris, you do, mate, and you want the opportunities that come your way, and sometimes the grass isn't greener. And I remember I was fortunate enough. I got to England and went out to the south of France to the tournament there, and we didn't know who was going to be the skipper. And you got your blazer on and your England tie and your grey slacks, your blue blazer, and we sat in the coach opposite the casino. And I was a naughty kid from East London, and I was thinking, I've got all these players around me: that Arsenal, West Ham, Chelsea, Tottenham, and the manager shouts out, "Mr. Holdsworth, you're captain." So I was like filled up.
Yeah.
My suit had already been given to my granddad, so that was he was taking that. So I thought, well, at least I can have the pleasure of being captain here. And there was Matthew Letizier on the bus, and I'm thinking, I'm lucky here, and he made me captain. So that was an honour, real honour, playing for your country at a young age. And as I say, it didn't hinder me by being at Watford, because if you're good enough, you'll get a chance.
Yeah, definitely. So Watford comes to an end, and as you've said, Howard Kendall, I've heard so much about him from Peter Reid, Adrian Heath, who were my coaches at Sunderland, and just the way he managed and how he got the best out of people. And as you said, he spoke to you once, and you said you would sign for £2. How did the move come about? Were you told, and did he ring you, and you got yourself up to Sheffield? Just explain it.
What it's like. You get the whispers, don't you?
Yeah.
And then I knew that I had to move on to make a change. And I'd spent 15 years at Watford, and I think it was right to move on. I'd heard that they'd offered the money. Ironically, the thing is, Chris, is that I went up to Sheffield, got to this hotel, and then I'm going to watch the game and have talks with the manager on the game, after the game on a Saturday night. And they beat Manchester City, and I'm thinking, they might not need me now. But they were dying to get in the playoffs. They might not need me now, but, our games can change. So they beat Manchester City 2-0. Don Hutchinson scored a really good goal. Gone into the boardroom after, and there this chief executive, director of football, if you like, at that time then, and he said, we're not paying this or that, blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, listen, all the best, keep well. And Howard was devastated. But on the Tuesday night, they were playing Southend away at Roots Hall. So Howard said to me, I can't understand what's going on here. So I said, well, look, listen, boss, I appreciate it. I want to play for you. We'll see how it goes. So on the Tuesday, Watford were playing at home. I ended up going to Roots Hall to watch the game, and the best thing ever happened. They lost 3-2. So Howard had gone in there saying, I need David to get it, and the deal was done at 6 o'clock in the morning. You didn't have mobiles then, Chris, and the phone was ringing at my home in London. And he said, get yourself up here. And I did. And it all went, walked through the door, and he said, listen, David, I've been trying to sign you for a long time. And he was brilliant, an incredible man. He knew football, and I was lucky enough. So Big Sam, Graham Taylor, Trevor. But I always think Howard knew everything about football. His man management skills were amazing. And when he made me the captain, I remember walking out to Wembley with him, and he said to me, listen, I've been in Europe, been everywhere, but I've got just as much pleasure walking out with you, Reg. And sort of like, you're going, Gaffer, stop talking about that. You're going to make me cry in a minute, because it was just that sentiment of walking out of Wembley with him, and a real pleasure. The thing was, I went in after, because the club was in the virtue of Mr. McCabe coming in, and there was 3 owners, and I went into a guy called Ian Townsend. I said, look, these boys don't deserve to just fizzle out. I think we need to keep this squad alive. Can we have a couple of days together, please? Just somewhere in the UK, go over to Ireland, went over to Dublin. And he said, David, I think that's a great idea. And we went out as a squad. I think there was 16 to 20 of us went out to Dublin as a group. And we had a couple of sherbets and, a bit of togetherness. And it didn't mean that the club had forgotten us. They'd made a lot of money over, the playoffs, Ipswich away. Goodness me, what a night that was. And then obviously getting to Wembley. So I just said, I think the boys deserve a little bit of a reward. And to be fair to the club, they went, no problem, David, we'll get that sorted. And the boys went out there. We watched the cup final. I think it was Arsenal versus Newcastle, 2-0 Arsenal. I think it was Limpard that scored. But yeah, we watched the game out there together, and we had a really good togetherness. But Howard and his staff, Viv Busby, a class act.
Yeah. John
Bailey, Nigel Spackman, they were great people to have in your dressing room as a manager for being staff we had an unbelievable team spirit, but that was based on the manager.
Howard Kendall goes that summer, and you go back in. Who actually took over? Was it Nigel Spackman then?
Well, Spackers took over. He was never going to be a manager, Nigel, I don't think. He was a really good coach, and we used to call him the best pointer in the world. He'd stand on an X. As you get older, you do that, don't you?
Yeah.
And we had good at pointing, Nigel, really nice guy. And then Steve Thompson came in as well for a short spell. And then Steve Bruce, he came in as player manager.
Right.
And then so it must be said that I didn't see eye to eye with Steve, in all honesty. It was his first manager's job, and I think he'll probably remember it as like a tough time for himself. But he's gone on to have an unbelievable career and manage as many games as he's done, and at the minute picking up with Newcastle. So, but he's his first one coming out of Birmingham, and this big star. And I think we had a great team spirit, and he tried to change things which didn't go down very well in our dressing room. And me and Steve had a few ups and downs, and Birmingham came in. We had the big game at Arsenal, and I wasn't going to go to Birmingham until we was out of the cup. We had the infamous game where it got replayed for the Kanu and Overmars incident. And then the deal went through to Birmingham. I didn't, in all honesty, I didn't want to go. I love Sheffield United, but the club was struggling money-wise, and they offered a lot of money for me, which was up to them. And they needed to make the playoffs, Birmingham. And Trevor and I got on absolutely brilliantly well. Met him, absolute gentleman. We made the playoffs, and that didn't go as well as I wanted. And we got beat by my old club, Watford, and I got sent off. So it could have been a better night.
Yeah. Trevor Francis, to me, sometimes doesn't seem the management type.
Yeah.
What did he bring to the table, management-wise? Just he looks quiet, etc.
I get you. Yeah, he was, Chris, and you're right. You're absolutely right. And Trevor had this swagger about him. He liked the finer things in life, and sort of. He wasn't the best coach, but he had coaches around him, and obviously he brought a lot in terms of his name. Ex-England, Nottingham Forest, European Cup winner. And by the way, let me tell you now, even at the age he was unbelievable in training. What a player he must have been in his day, goodness me. He was a winner, an absolute winner, and liked winning. And I say, when I went there, we had some good times, and I was very sad to see him go, but Karen wasn't the easiest person, I don't think, to work for at being a manager. I got on fine with Karen, but as I say, it was a different type of club that was running a different way at that time. And Karen obviously had a good relationship with Steve Bruce, so that's why when he came in, I moved to Birmingham, and the first person that follows me was Steve Bruce. So the
aspirations when you went to Birmingham would be promotion, or was it? Top six?
It was, Chris. Well, the first thing they had to do was get in the playoffs. When I went there, I think that we were 10th. And I just said to Trevor, well, listen, we'll get in the playoffs. We'll keep clean sheets. And that's what we did. My debut was away at Crewe, and we got a clean sheet. And that's what they needed. There was hemorrhaging goals.
So 2-0 against Crewe on a Sunday?
No, that game, it was a 0-0, that game. But I do remember the one you mean. I'm sure we beat them 2-0.
Yeah, I was on loan then, and we couldn't get a kick. We were on a good run ourselves on loan there, and I think Adrian Heath came down from Sunderland to watch us, so I thought, I've got a chance here. And he's just sniffed us out. It was just, as you say, a powerful performance.
Yeah, there wasn't much glamour. It was just really get amongst people, close them down, work your socks off, and have a little bit of desire. And a team like yourself who like to go through the middle really got bypassed, I would say. And a lot of teams did. We went quite direct from fullback areas. Martin Granger and Gary Rowett would love a long ping up there into the green, and Let's Stand, and Brian Hughes as well, John McCarthy. They were good, talented players, very strong.
Good dressing room, like Sheffield, or a bit different, or.
Slightly different because Trevor had not his favourites, but he had his people that he liked, and I think that changed slightly when I went there, and there was a few others. Michael Carrick came in on loan, Jeff, and so we a good dressing room. Yeah, there was a good dressing room. I think that it changed dramatically after probably myself and Lee Bradbury went in there, a different type of characters, and but they were good, really good lads. There was no Wallies in there.
No, so they made the playoffs that year. Who did you come up against that year?
Well, we played Watford. And,
sorry, yeah.
And no, that's all right. No, the first year, in fact, we played Barnsley. Pardon me.
Is that the 4-0 at home leg?
4-1, yeah. And then, I mean, we go up there and we win. I think it was 1-0, 2-0, but we'd miss sitters, and it was one of them games where you went and you're thinking, has that really happened? And it just did. And so we were disappointed. And then the second year, as I say, we went to Watford, and ironically, I got the first one. I deserved a booking. The second one, I don't think I did. I think the player went down rather easily and clutched his face, and the referee couldn't wait to send me off. And that was my brother was doing the commentary as well that night, so yeah, it was all good fun. So have a long summer, and then the next year, as I say, Trevor gets the sack, and obviously the next manager was Steve Bruce, who really I was never going to play for. We didn't get on at all, and there was about 5 or 6 of us that wanted to go out and get some games and play. We went to Walsall, in fact, myself and Martin O'Connor had a great time. What a lovely little club that was, playing for only for a few months. But we saved them from relegation, and it was a real pleasure. Only up the road from Birmingham, and there was Marcelo, I think Danny Sonner came as well. John Beresford came in on loan. So yeah, we had it was a great little time, a little spell, like a 3-month spell where you just enjoy your football, but also you can save a club going down. I mean, Walsall in the Championship, what an achievement that was. So to keep them in there was a good achievement.
I do remember it because we came to town and we needed a victory, and Steve Parkin, we got beat 2-1. I think Don Goodman scored the winner, and we had to go back and wash our own kit for a week and everything. He just wasn't happy at all. But you're right, it was perfect from Walsall, wasn't it? It was using your connections with the team that's round you and bringing in some experience for the final hole to help youngsters. Like I would say Darren Rack would have been around at that time, Byfield.
Keatsy.
And you would have helped them come through.
They say Ray Graydon was the manager when it was quite weird, really, because Ray was the manager. And I get on the bus and I met him at the Hawthorns. We're playing West Brom away. They've got Jason Roberts up front, and I'm saying to Roper, don't get too close because he'll roll you. So we've got through the game, and I think it was about midway through the second half, and Ropes has got rolled, and they've won 1-0. So I'm thinking, okay, this boy's here. They can stay up. And then straight after the game, Ray Graydon, he resigned. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what are we going to do here? I've only been here a day. Don't really know the lads, but I knew a few that were coming. And then Colin Lee comes in. So I knew Colin. Again, he'd been the Watford manager for a brief spell. So he just said to me, what's wrong with this place? And I said, look, this and this and this. This needs doing. And we'll be all right. And then over the next 3 months, we used our contacts, got a few boys in that we knew that would come and have a fight. And I say, even that, I remember the day that we saved them. It was actually at Bramwell Lane. We won 2-0, and the Walsall fans were ecstatic. And it was a great achievement, to do that for that club. Under a small budget that they had. But the lads, again, the dressing room spoke. It was good.
Yeah. So you go back to Birmingham, that's about it with Steve Bruce. You start putting the feelers out for where next?
Well, the funny thing was, Chris, I still had a 2-year contract.
Nice.
and weirdly enough, I got a promotion bonus because they got in the playoffs, beat Norwich on penalties, and I got a bonus. So it was quite surreal. So I'm sat at home, kept them up, and said, listen, David, have a nice holiday. And I thought, yeah, you're right, I will do now. I got a bonus that day. And so, again, you're then thinking, right, what am I going to do? I'm going to have a little bit of time off and evaluate. I got chances to go up to Scotland, to Hibs. I went up there, and that was an interesting a couple of days. So, no, I had lots of options. It was good. Yeah.
So you say interesting. Was it? did you go up there and enjoy it, or did you think it's not for me at the minute?
Bobby Williamson, no, it wasn't that at all. Lovely city, Edinburgh. Yeah. Did I really want to go to Scotland? No, in all honesty. Good club. But when I got there, the deal had changed. And I think, I don't know, listen, as I say, when you're expecting to go up there and be the captain, and it was a good club, really nice people. But the chief executive at the time, he changed the deal, turned it from a 6 month to an 18 month. And I said, listen, thank you very much, keep well. That was all I did. I went back and just enjoyed my holiday again.
And then Bolton, is it?
Yeah, that was great. You know what? It was good fun because Dean, obviously, and I, twins growing up, we spent sort of 15, 18 years on the road passing each other on motorways, as you do. You know what it's all about. And so Dean rings me and he says, listen, Sam's rung me and said, would your brother come and help us? So I said, well, of course I will, no problem whatsoever. Walked in, Big Sam, David, look, I've just signed Ivan Campo. He's been eating too much paella and he's not fit, and we need just a bit of cover. I've got Colin Hendry, I think at the time, was injured. Will you come and help me? Of course I will, no problem. Listen, I got the chance to play with Yura Djokovic, JJ Okocha, goodness me, all some real proper players. I knew what I was going for. I only went there to cover. I played a couple of occasions for him, once in the cup, and but I had a great time. And I actually shared an apartment, Chris, with my brother, and it was like two little boys. To be honest, it was quite good fun. And it was some good characters at Bolton, and we had a few good nights out, obviously at the right time. But Sam was a real pleasure. I mean, I learned a lot, even only a short spell, about the sports science of the game, the dressing room spirit, the leadership responsibility from at that level. You know, he took me to all the big games, and you know, it was brilliant. I had a great little time there. Dean was coming to end of his time. There was Michael Ricketts, who was leaving as well. But it was a real pleasure to just work alongside and with my brother, but also with some really good players there they had at the time. Amazing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It was an eye opener with Sam Allardyce and he's scientific ways and things like that. Was it the first you've ever came across that sort of work? Yeah, at that level, definitely. I mean, we did body fats and things like that, which you do anyway throughout your career. Just the way you went about it in recovery and the learning about that recovery. I mean, they really went to town on recover and obviously visualization, the sports science part of it, the pro zone, which I'd never really been associated with. We didn't have that at Birmingham. We didn't have it at Sheffield United. Goodness me, Sheffield United was back to the old days. Sort of like put your two jumpers down for goals, really. So no, it was a real pleasure, and to say under Sam and some lovely people, and it's really sad to see where how that's gone over the last a decade, I suppose, now after Big Sam left. Yeah. So from Birmingham, was that a conscious decision to say yourself, right, I'm a certain age now, I know that my best times are behind us, I'm going to start to ease down, or?
Yeah, no, not really, mate. It was, I got this phone call from out of the blue. I went to help Scarborough. My next door neighbour was the chairman at Scarborough, Russell Slade, who I'd moved from Sheffield United. I went in there and just played a few games for him. It wasn't really about the money, in all honesty. I just enjoyed it. I had my own soccer schools in London. I used to go up to the games and play for him. I only went there to help him. And then Russell, to be honest, he was going to go to, I think it's Bradford. And the chairman said to me, look, David, will you run the season for us? And I said, well, look, I wouldn't do that to Russell. If he signs there, then obviously that's a different matter. But in the end, Russell stayed, and I just thought it was, the right thing to do, just to step away, because one, I didn't want his job. I would never have done that to him, and he was a friend, and he still is. And but it just didn't work out, and I felt it was the right thing to do, to step away at that time. And I say, then I got this phone call from this chap, and said, "Will you meet me?" And I actually thought, honestly, I met him in a hotel in London, and I thought my brother was setting me up. I did. Like the Beadle, the Jeremy Beadle thing. This guy walks in with a beard, he's smoking like a chimney. I didn't know him from anywhere. I didn't have anybody, try and do your research. I've met a lot of people who said, yeah, this, that and the other. And I think, Brooks walked through the door. We sat down, we had 3 hours together. And I just said, look, I don't want a contract, I'll shake your hand. And the rest was history. I flew up 3 times a week from London. He was there every day. We talked, and we put things into practice. Changed the old ethos of a small club like Gretna. First year, we just had to get back to some reality in terms of going then to full-time, which we did. And then the pathway, we did all the contracts together, we did the recruitment, and obviously the rest is history, mate. It was an amazing time. Amazing.
Yeah, I remember going up through the leagues. And did you think, though, as you got to the Premier League, the crowds, etc., might be a problem, or was it just a case of getting as far as you could? Yeah. Yeah,
it was always going to be that you have the infrastructure there. I mean, when I got there, it was like 300 people and a cat, and so it was an incredible journey, Chris. And I don't think that was always going to be when you have to go and share your time sort of other clubs. But I sadly behind the scenes, I knew that Brooks was really not in a good shape, and that's when I decided to leave. I didn't want to be a burden on him any further, in terms of having too many people, and it was obviously going to happen. And I decided to move back to not move back to England, but take my situation away. I'd had a great time, and I'd been offered 2 jobs in England, so me and him shook hands, and we had a cuddle, to be honest, and bless him. And that was the time for me to move on. I felt it was the realistic time, and the honest time to move away as well.
I seen you cut your teeth at Ilkeston, but you got the job in the conference with Mansfield. How did you find that? Just your first management job, pressure, etc. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, the Ilkeston one was really, really quite amazing, Chris, because they'd actually avoided relegation by a goal, if I remember rightly, by 1 goal. And I walked into the club. I knew I was going to get the job. I'd been offered it. And the chief executive there, he said, "Well, this is my office." So I said, "Well, where's the physio's room?" "Oh, the physio's room's in this porter cabin over there." I walked in, Chris, and you had to wipe your shoes on the way out. It was awful. But I said, "Well, listen, you go and work from home now, mate, and this is now going to be the physio's room." So he rang up the owner, and the owner said to me, "Well, what's he doing?" I said, "He's got one bit of paper. He's got the retained list, which has got 4 names on it and no phone numbers." So as you can imagine, it was a sort of daunting task. But I'd done my recruitment. I knew I'd already got sort of 16 players ready. And I built a squad that was based for promotion, in all honesty, on a really small budget. So people like Rob Scott, Paul Hurst, Chris Adamson, Ben Pringle I brought down, from lovely lad Ben, and give him his chance and came through. So I enjoyed it. I loved it, in fact. It was, I was full-time. I was trying to set an academy up, so that was going to make the club self-sufficient. But then Mansfield came in for me, who were in, I think, 23rd place in the conference, and wasn't far away from my home in Yorkshire. And but that was a tough time. That was a really tough time, I have to admit. It was every day. Talk about a club's demise. They'd been giving out contracts that weren't worth having. And I had a team I inherited 34 players from Billy McEwen, 34, and I had no assistant manager. So I had to cull that squad. I had to bring in people that did a job, Chris, in all honesty, for that remaining spell. The first game I brought in 5 or 6 boys who were my lads who I knew. Rob Duffy scored the winner against Steve Evans. Steve, he was going crackers. His pulse was racing. He was causing mayhem in the tunnel. And we beat them 1-0 with high-flying Crawley. But that was a tough club, and that's where you sort of learn from, having a great time at Gretna. But this club had made really bad decisions over the years and then sort of run out of money. And then, so I kept them up. I think we finished 10th, I think it was. So that was a brilliant time. The club then nearly went into administration, and the guy came in, John Radford, and saved the club. But John had his own ideas, and me and him sort of just happily moved apart, because I didn't think that I could be the manager under him, if you like. And we had a good conversation and just said, "Listen, let's move on." And really, then he spent a lot of money, which is good for them, but it hasn't really paid off. In all honesty, I think John knows that why he's made them decisions. We've had a good conversation since and got on great, and he's really back Mansfield. He really did. So no, I was happy to leave there at the right time, but it really does affect a town. The town were down, the supporters were down. They want glamorous football on peanut money, and ultimately all they needed was a really method to keep them up. So, but it got better, and I say that club there is John Radford and that season, if we hadn't stayed up and gone down to the Conference North, I don't know where that club would be right now. I really don't. And really, then that was that with me there, at the right time.
Yeah, I think you speak about Mansfield every year. We say they've made 6 or 7 big signings. You think they're going to be up there, but it just doesn't work like that at times, does it? And
no.
Especially the wages they were banned. Certainly a couple of years ago. I don't know what the
No, it's not changed. It's not changed, Chris. It's not changed at all. They're still back in promotion in terms of finance, and even at present, I'm aware of some of the deals that are going on, and they're not slowing down in terms of dishing out money.
Yeah. So just before we get back to full circle to the Carlisle, you were at Lincoln as well, and I think was there stuff to go on it. You had to cut the books at Lincoln as well, didn't you? Or was there a bit of a mess?
It was awful. It was dreadful. We had no kit man. I had no assistant manager. I had to bring in a couple of lads who I knew one day a week to try and help me in preparation. I had no coach, so it was that again. But it wasn't dissimilar to Mansfield. The club had no money. I kept them up. I brought in some great lads. To be fair, we had a bit of fun. There was some. To be honest, there was some nightmare players in the club at the time, earning contracts that, Chris, you wouldn't believe. And they didn't want to be there, and there was no desire. It was a disaster zone. So having a fight every day as manager with sort of 6 to 8 players who don't want to be there, earning $2,000 a week, and they've been relegated and relegated again. It was awful. So I brought in some really good lads, some really good boys, some boys that I knew would roll their sleeves up and have a fight. And we went big. We went big, strong, ugly. That's all we could do. They were cheaper than the more elaborate players like yourself who want to put your ball down on the floor. We had to go direct. And I had big Richard Paquette, Mark McCammon, Jefferson Louis, really top boys who came in. Listen, it was a real pleasure keeping them up. But again, you get told your budget's being cut to one of the lowest in the league, and then you think, well, how am I going to do this? How can you do it? And so Bob and I, had a really good conversation, and there was a lot of problems. There was a lot of problems behind the scenes at Lincoln at that time, and a lot of people, why the club was still there. So you're not really operating on a straight pathway, if you like. There was a lot of problems behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times the players, it's getting them out the door, isn't it? But it's when they're on contracts like that, and that's the worst bit. I think when you hit the good dressing rooms, as you spoke about, when the lads who aren't on the greatest contracts still muck in and still want to do it, and professional pride takes them on. But once you've got the bad eggs, it's terrible for managers.
Honestly, there was one or two there. I won't know their names, but we didn't get on at all, and I was quite happy making them run at 8 miles at 8 o'clock in the morning. Don't worry about that. And you just have to get through it. But they were, in my opinion, the worst of the worst. They weren't being proper pros, and that was why Lincoln had gone down. I mean, I think the last season, they lost 11 games on the trot. How do you do that? So, no, I did. It wasn't pleasant. The first 3 months, I didn't enjoy that job one bit. And there was a lot of things there that, as I say, there was an infrastructure behind the scenes that was in demise, crumbling, and there was people inside the club that really didn't need to be there. And there was a lot of aggravation. It really was, and it was unsettling, if you like, for a lot of people.
So opportunity comes with Carlisle. How did you find the club when you first got here? Something you could really sink your teeth into?
I didn't realise how not bad, but how serious the situation was in terms of some of the things that have gone on again. And I'm not knocking under whatever happened before, but that you've got a tough task in terms of getting the structure right. There's been a lot of things that it's been well documented that there was a bonus scheme, and this player was getting this, and there was other players not getting that. And I think really what we had to do, and what I said in the first thing, I think one of you guys asked me, what do you want? You want to raise the structure and get something that's actually professional inside the club. I know that the board had really supported Keith, and it didn't go as well as they wanted, of course, and that's it's very visual. And as I say, things are much more organised and professional, and the players know that they've got to come and wear the pride, in the badge, and that's what we must have, really must have.
Yeah, I think obviously you've lived in Cumbria with the Gretna. So you'd probably know that the city is just crying out, isn't it, for a bit of success, and they'll get on board, which you've seen in some games.
It would be such a good thing if we can bring some success to this club. The people are dying for it. The supporters are dying for it. It's been a long time, and we've got to really, really go work harder than ever before to achieve that. And it would be amazing. It's a top club, and certainly at this level, we want to be able to try and get into League One. There's a lot of things that go with that, as you're aware. But, as I say, the past is the past, and I really do want to try and help this club look forward. I think the supporters do, but we've got to work even harder, even through this time, is that we're doing everything we can to make sure that things are set up. I believe we've got a very good young manager, a very good coach, good person. He's learning about his managerial roles. He worked under Keith Hill, and Chris is doing a really solid job, and players like working for him. He's demanding. He's got a lot. I love it. He's got that northern way. He's got that mannerism of good honesty, and I don't think you can look beyond that. Is that he demands from people, and he pushes people, which is good. That's what we want.
Yeah, I think we've certainly seen a change, haven't we? As you say, it might be the fact that he's been around the game a lot in and around our level, and he's got a good eye for a player. Speaking to him before his interviews after a game, and you kind of see it the same way. It's just not a question directed at you, or just personally, or looking at it. What do you think went wrong with Stephen Pressley? It just seemed to me that we hadn't seen the same game as us, which can happen, but it was just things that some things just baffled us at times. What he had said after games, but when he first came, I thought he was refreshing. I thought he got it. It just sometimes it doesn't work, does it? And the pressure you put on yourself can sometimes tell.
Yeah. Well, look, Stephen's a good guy first and foremost, and he's got a lovely, lovely family, and he's a good guy. When the process came about, Stephen was asked to give us, and as everybody is, who was interviewed at that process, was how do you want to play? How do League Two football? How do you see it? But unfortunately, there was a mix where Stephen, the sort of the words that were told didn't come to fruition, and I didn't. You want to support the man as much as possible because the board had given him the job, and you want to do it. And we did. We really did support Stephen, but we weren't seeing what he'd sort of told us he was going to do. And when you keep losing, it becomes frustrating. It becomes frustrating for the supporters. Nobody's more frustrated than the manager, I'm sure. But it didn't change anything. And I think as a manager, you have to be prepared to change. And there was games there. I mean, the Leyton Orient game stands out for me. I didn't know why he would put McCurdy and Nathan Thomas up front. So, that was Stephen's decision, and no one changed his mind, or we supported him. And as a manager, you have to take that. I've been there, seen it, done it. So, no, look, we wish Stephen well and whatever he does, but I think the time was needed for a change, and the board obviously felt the same way. So. Nobody wants that to happen. Nobody does, and so Stephen's an extremely straightforward man. But I think he probably learned a lot, maybe, about himself, what he said he was going to do and then didn't do, or it didn't appear to be coming because we were losing games and it wasn't League Two football. I didn't personally see how you could play that way football in League Two, trying building that from the goalkeeper on the 6-yard box. Didn't fill me with much delight, if I'm honest.
No, but yeah, as you say, really pleasant feather. Nothing against him. It just didn't work out for him. But we'll go back to having a little bit of fun now. Just a couple of questions for you. Who is the best player you've played with, whether it be technical ability or mentality, or just someone who stood out for you? You mentioned someone, McClellan, next to you. There's just someone who stood out for you over your career who you thought, that's the first person that I think of.
Well, I was lucky enough to play with Paul McGrath. I can't imagine how good he would have been, Paul McGrath, and I was lucky enough to play with Ian Rush, so I don't think you can look beyond them two, really.
No, Paul McGrath didn't even train, did he?
No, Macca used to do a walk, and one day he got injured walking, so what a nice guy. He must have been. Some of the stories that Dean Saunders told us about him when he was at Villa, and some of the Irish connections were interesting stories, but Macca, what a player. I played next to him and Carl Tyler at Blades, and a real lovely man, a gentleman.
Yeah, so you play in a 3 and he came through the middle, would it have been there?
Well, he didn't go anywhere else. He never ran a channel, let me tell you that. He was like, you go there, David. Right, okay, I will then. Paul McGrath, I'll run that way for you.
Yeah. Hardest opponent?
Jurgen Klinsmann.
Right, yeah.
Simple.
Watford v Tottenham.
Yeah, played against Jurgen in his first game in England after he came out of the World Cup with the golden boots. And Glenn Roeder says, David, you can mark him man to man. Thank you very much. We got on brilliantly. He didn't do anything untoward, naughty. He gave me a shirt. I gave it to my pal, who was a massive Tottenham fan, and I met him at a Simply Red concert about 4 or 5 weeks after. And hello, David. How are you? Really, what a nice man, but proper player. I mean, Shearer, people like that, Anelka, Wrighty, I played against, but he just had this amazing aura about him. He was just an incredible player, and his balance, Chris, was unbelievable. He could turn on a sixpence, and he was just class. So I'll just put him. If like you're going to go to the Ritz, you want to take Jurgen Klinsmann with you. He's a proper player, and I say I played against him, and he was just had this unbelievable. Listen, I was lucky enough to play against Zola and players like that, and Di Canio, but Jurgen had this swagger about him. He was unbelievable.
Favourite time in football or management? Just the time that you've enjoyed the most, where you've thought,
I've been lucky, Chris. I've been fortunate. Captain England youth team, captain Watford, captain Sheffield United, captain Birmingham. Play under Howard. Work for some great people. Difficult one that. I don't know. Doing so well with Gretna. Amazing. And as I say, very difficult to say that was the best time. I think one of the best times I ever had was having breakfast with Howard Kendall in Spain, and the stories. I don't think we moved for about 24 hours, so that was good fun.
Was it breakfast, stroke lunch, stroke dinner?
Yeah.
I've heard of them ones. Finish with a really serious one. Give us your best Elton John story.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Well, I'll tell you one about Elton John. All right, this is a gentleman he was, okay? So I go into hospital the night I've got my leg smashed in. In the morning, I get a phone call at, I don't know, I think it was probably 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock. Yeah, Elton John, Holdsworth, how you doing? He said to me, is it there? And as the door opened, a big bouquet walked in, and this bouquet of flowers and a hamper from Fortnum and Mason. And he said, I'm going to play tennis with you 6 months' time. And we did. And he turned up. And he was just an absolute... China was brilliant. He was singing, he sat next to him on the chair and singing Candle in the Wind with all the boys, you know.
Yeah.
Them, and you're never going to... Walking up the Great Wall of China with him, you know, sitting on a steamboat going down on the Shanghai River, sitting on a locomotive, listening to Elton John, where we've got sheep and cattle on this train, and he's singing all of his songs to all the passengers. Memories, amazing.
Yeah,
incredible man.
Yeah, I think a lot of your memories with football careers, certainly mine as well, it's off the pitch as well. There's just certain things happen which you look back probably now and go, bloody hell, I can't believe that happened.
You know what? The funny thing is, you'll be saying the same to me, is that thank God there wasn't any social media around then.
We've said that a few times over the few weeks. Ian Bishop, ex-West Ham, was delighted for it. But,
Bish, I know Bish,
he was great. But no, thanks very much, David. I think it was just important, you know, to get you on and talk through your career, which we really enjoyed. And I hope you enjoyed it too.
Yeah, no, I have, absolutely. And listen, stay safe, and thank you very much.